Good evening and welcome to Collector Cars. I'm Bill, your host.
Finally.
Well, now wait a minute. Now, by the time, already people know that the show is going to be different than it has been in the past. For those of you who don't know, the former DJ and former host of the show lost a bet, and so that's why I'm the host tonight. But then he said, who are you going to have on as a guest? And I said, all right, so my first guest, of course, is none other than that former DJ and former host. Actually, he's still a DJ. Lance?
Oh, I'm sorry, I've never seen the studio from this angle.
And get used to it.
Get used to it. I see.
And of course, none other than Mark Petty, the guy who has forgot more about cars than most people know about cars.
I forgot. What
You
did I
did.
forget?
I don't
Nothing,
see.
I forgot.
His point exactly.
Exactly.
What point? This point?
That point. Very nice. So, we're going to do something a little different tonight. I thought that as long as I'm in the host seat, that we could do something a little different. Uh-oh, the audience is going to get rowdy on us tonight. Some of you have talked about questions for Lance, so we came up with a little segment called Grill the DJ. And so I think this is a good opportunity to talk to Lance about some of the history and some of the questions that people have. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So the first one that someone asked me is, how did you get started as a car show DJ?
Okay. I had gotten a Trans Am. My son got a 68 Chevelle. We started going to car shows. The first show I ever went to was Lemon Bay AACA. And it was a weird situation. Their DJ didn't show that day. So we walked around, looked at cars. There wasn't any music or anything, but I said to my son, boy, this is pretty cool. Then we went to Don Rock and Roll show up at TGI Fridays in Bradenton, and they had music and all kinds of stuff going, and I said, wow. I said, this is really neat. I like this better than the other one. And the following week, my son went to work, showed the boss the car, and asked him, he was working at Chick-fil-A, asked the boss, said we should do car shows here. He said, okay, we'll do them every Thursday. You're in charge. He came home, he looked at me, he said, hey, we're going to do car shows, Dad. I said, what do you mean, we? I didn't know anything about it. Got a little boom box, hooked up a bunch of speakers to it, passed out a couple of flyers at Jimmy Signori's show. Lo and behold, 25 cars showed up.
And did Troy want to be involved with this?
Yeah, he was into it. He was into it with the car. He was doing this at his work.
Yeah.
So that kind of set him, that kind of gave him a little prestige with the other employees. We did the first show, 25 cars showed up. I'm pumping this music from a little bitty boombox into these big speakers. All of a sudden, boom!
It went boom.
Oh yes,
The boombox
and this was a real boombox. It went boom. It caught fire. Smoke's coming out of it, and everybody's sitting there looking at each other, going, "This guy ain't never gonna make it."
Well,
And
that kind of leads me to my.
What do you mean they're still saying that?
Well, and that's exactly it. Kind of leads me to my second question, where now car show promoting is actually your only business.
Yes.
Okay. So how did that evolve into the second tier of things?
What basically happened is we were doing the weekly show at Chick-fil-A. Turnouts were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We actually had a Thursday night where we had 170 or 180 cars, which is immense for a Thursday night show, especially in this area. Anyway, bottom line was people were asking me to do shows. Other businesses were looking for me to do shows. I had a cleaning business, which was fairly large. I had a lot of employees. I had ulcers that were about to kill me from it. I was running around in the middle of the night every time somebody called in sick. So anyway, bottom line was I reached a point where I looked at Gay and I said, look, honey, I got to make a choice. I got to either stop doing the car shows, stick with the cleaning business, or forget the cleaning business and go with the car shows. Well, that's a no-brainer. I mean, you don't have fun,
So
basically,
Mark, do you think you made the right decision, or?
Well, basically, I went
kinda.
from cleaning toilets to riding one.
Yeah,
Riding
there you go.
There you go.
It was a good fit.
Yeah. The other thing that people ask about, I think, or are confused about is the different types of shows that you do. And I'll use an example. I do the show out at Anna Marie Island, okay? And that is part of Bayfest, and it's put on by the Anna Maria Island Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
I'm the car show chairman, but all we do is hire you as a DJ.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
give us, a little. Everybody seems to think that if Lance is there, it's Lance's show.
Right.
And that's not true all the time.
Right. It's a very tough situation because the DJ, unfortunately, becomes responsible for everything on the lot, including the weather, whether they had good service in the restaurant, whether they had a waiter that was terrible, whatever. It all comes down to they're gonna bring that back to me. I do shows where they simply pay me a fee to play music and to promote the show, and that's a big difference. So I'm not a DJ for hire. I am a promoter. That's basically what I've always been with this. Setting up the shows, the advertising, the media packages, all that kind of stuff. So people have a choice. They can hire a DJ who'll play music. They can hire a guy like me. It's a little more money, but I'm going to advertise their show. I'm going to build flyers for them. I'm going to help them get dash plaques, help them get deals on things because I buy everything in bulk. And then you have the shows that are mine. 100% I do the whole thing. And those shows, yes, I am the person that is ultimately responsible. That's where the buck stops with me. But then I have shows where I partner up with organizations, or I'll partner up with, like, for example, Jim Digert, that guy. Him and I have always been partners on Super Cruise. Now I've got someone else to consider. Now I'm not making the decisions completely. Everything has to go through, a meeting with the other partner.
Right.
So there's definitely different types of things. One big point is I do car shows. When we first started going to these things, the trophies, the music, the prizes, all that stuff, to me, that's what made it fun.
Well, and I think, too, the other thing is that you, I think, are the only DJ in the state of Florida that's a former host of a TV show.
Former.
Did you get that former?
What TV show?
Just slide that right
What
underneath
TV
there.
show did I do before this?
No, I'm talking about this.
And next week, the next time I'm going to be in that seat. I think.
That's right. Exactly.
Do I move
Yeah,
over?
but
You move this way.
I move that way? Is that what it is? When you
All right. So that's a good
musical
explanation.
chairs.
The other thing that I think that comes up quite often is a lot of the people that go to car shows, me included, I go for the charity events in particular. I really like to be involved. It's a way for me to give back to the local economy by doing stuff to charities. And,
Right.
you do a lot of charity work. You give a lot of money. How do you end up handling those funds when you get that money? Because most of these shows make $50, $60. I mean, some of the shows that you do make thousands.
Right.
So how do you deal with
We've had
that?
shows that have made up upwards of $30,000. Here's the thing. It's a very tricky thing that we do with this, and how I try to come off with this is to give the people an honest synopsis of what we're doing, okay? When they say I do a show for charity, that doesn't mean that every dime we take in that day is going to go for charity.
But you do something like that.
Yes, there are some shows. If I can get local businesses to sponsor a show, pay me my fee, pay for the trophies and the dash plaques and the door prizes and the flyers and all the stuff we have to do this, then it's 100% of the proceeds goes to the charity, okay? In the beginning, most of the time, I required that a representative of the charity to be at the show to physically take the money, because I had heard horror stories. Every time I heard somebody talk about another DJ, it was, yeah, you know where that charity money's going? And I didn't want that stuff to start with what I was doing. So what I did is I formed a committee, 4 or 5 people. It's not a huge committee, but those people tell me where the money's going. One of them will call me and say, look, we've been approached by this organization or that person, and we're going to give them a check for X number of dollars. Cool with me. I got a phone call and said, we're going to write a $500 check to Honor Flight. We're going to write another one, when we do the show. Okay. In other words, they pretty much control what's going on. And I really would prefer them handling all the requests because of the reputation we've gotten as far as helping, and we have helped a lot of people, Bill, and that's the part that makes me feel good about this whole thing in my heart.
And I think that's the reason why a lot of people do come to your shows, is that they recognize